just so you know, we typically record these and post these later for folks who can't attend and want to catch up on the discussions that happen. So just if you're okay with that, just I'll let you know.
Okay.
Did you have any specific?
And if there is something that gets into the weeds that seems like something that the people don't necessarily want in public, we don't. There have been somewhere where we haven't posted them because of that, or we've trimmed out part. So,
okay.
But
yes.
It's good to know that that so like we can turn off the recording or something.
Okay.
Or remember to trim it.
Okay. This is new to me. I'm actually fairly new to the island, and I am a financial coach, and so very interested in the economics on the island so that I can help people get out of debt and build wealth.
Oh,
so
cool.
That's why I decided to join today, to kind of get to know people and the situation.
Gotcha. Okay, well, welcome. Looks like we got a couple other people joining in too. So Lee Grooms and Susan Mozzarella.
Hello, Kim.
Well, hello, Lee. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Having some fun with the virtual backgrounds there, huh?
Well, somebody needed to be in the office. It might as well be me.
There it is.
Hi, Susan.
Susan, you're muted, but you can unmute. You have control there. There you go. You guys? Well, welcome to what I think is going to be our final episode of Chat and Chew for a little while. We've been doing a lot of these programming events at the EDC just to keep everybody up to date with all the stuff that's been developing, as developments are happening much quicker. Now we're sort of getting swamped in other areas, and we've been watching these, people actually are starting to go back to work or get ready to go back to work. So I think these, the frequency of these is starting to become less and less a thing for people. So, EDC, we're always going to be here. Our office is open. We're available via email or phone. You can always reach out to info@sanjuans with an S, edc.org. And check out our website, which is sanjuansedc.org. That's San Juans with an S. We don't have a topic today necessarily. We're here, we kind of posted, if you guys had unemployment questions or questions about the PPP. I know I posted this morning on Facebook the article in Bloomberg from this morning about the Senate last night passing or authorizing changes to the PPP loan program, specifically extending the use period from 8 to 24 weeks. It was giving us a 60-40 split on payroll costs to other costs versus the 75-25 split. And there was one more big thing that just went straight out of my head. It was, oh my goodness. Oh, and then, that was 5-year instead of 2-year. You decided to go with the loan. Now, this has gone to the president's desk for signature. I'm hoping that we're going to get an update today. We know that there are other things going on in Washington right now, but hopefully this remains a priority and that can get done, because that would certainly help some businesses plan that are in the middle of this right now. So, we're keeping an eye on that. Nothing new on IDLE necessarily. I've still been talking to some people. Sorry, our neighbor just blew by on a gravel road doing about 60 miles an hour. I keep talking to IDLE applicants. That's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That was the first loan that was available for this whole thing through the SBA.gov website. We're still seeing people having their applications trickle in via email. Is how SBA, the Small Business Association, is reaching out to people. The that is just one of those, hopefully it comes when it comes. There's nobody really at SBA to answer for where people's applications are in the system. Although if you got the grant, which was anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000, depending on your number of employees back in the beginning of March, then your application is somewhere in the mix. So that's a good sign. As far as unemployment, we're still talking to a handful of people a week that are, trying to figure out if they should apply for unemployment. At this point, the question seems to be if I've gotten PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program funds, can I, how do I deal with that versus unemployment? And, our guidance is always been the same thing, which is if you are going to seek loan forgiveness and you want to get yourself to the 75% threshold on payroll, which includes paying yourself, and your employees, obviously just, you're not double dipping in those weeks between salary that you're taking that week from PPP funds versus unemployment. I'm sure down the road, this is going to become some sort of audit headache for people. But right now, in the interest of keeping the doors open and the lights on, this is what we have to work with. Unemployment system seems to be fairly robust in terms of people being able to get on and file claims weekly. I know adjudication is still going on. They were hoping to have that wrapped up on May 20th, and with with all of the fraudulent activity that right around the same time, that took a back seat. So I talked to a lot of people that are waiting for their claims to be adjudicated, and all that means is that for a real person to look at all of the documents that they've submitted. In some cases, people are going into adjudication because somebody's filed a fraudulent claim on their behalf, or in their name rather. So they're trying to get into the weeds on that too. Obviously, anybody that's had a fraudulent claim filed in their name is not responsible for paying back those funds that you didn't get, and it would not affect your ability to file a claim if you needed to. So ESD's been very upfront about that. That this is not the problem of the person whose identity got stolen from this. And to reiterate, the ESD system has not been hacked or anything like that. This is all these are all stemming from things like the Experian data breach from a couple of years ago now, and there's been some various very large bank breaches. All those, this is what happens with that information is stuff like what ESD's been working with this last few weeks. So they've managed to get back, I think at last check I saw we're getting back like $300 million out of that, of the money that had been, fraudulently applied for. Some of it was, and it was like I was on a call with Susie a few days ago, that some of the guys that were filing the claims kept the original person's snail mail address on the application. So, somebody who had not applied went to their mailbox. There was a debit card from ESD with money on it, and called ESD and said, "What's going on?" They said, like, "Oh, we'll just send it back." So probably half the funds came back to them like that. So, which makes you, gives you an idea of the caliber of people that were trying to rip off the system to begin with. But I think that's it. This is sort of one of those strange seasons right now where, we're making the shift from, triage into recovery. Our long-term goal here at EDC is to really not just to help businesses find footing again, but to also sort of plan ahead for, over the next 20 years, what business and the economic growth of the islands, this county, is going to look like. And to, this is a great time to be having that conversation because we've certainly identified a lot of the shortfalls in the system. Reliance on tourism is a big one, and we love our tourists, and they do, contribute to the tax base here. But, during economic downturns, as we've seen, that is a very fragile thing. And so many of our businesses rely on that versus, being reliant in other markets, that, it's really causing us to, it's giving us a worst case landscape to look at, because we are going to experience this again in our lifetimes. We may experience this again in November, December, if the epidemiologists are all correct about the second wave of corona, sweeping our country. So we're trying to have smart conversations about what that looks like, and protect as much as we can, going into a possible another round of this stuff. And we'll also have a recession that this country is going to be dealing with, going to historic unemployment and business closures, and certainly bankruptcies, which are around the corner. So there's going to be there'll be a very large economic reckoning coming. So I'm going to open up. There's 5 of us here. Let's just open it up to open discussion. You're all unmuted, so.
I did want to mention there, I had to step out for a moment, but did you mention some of the news about the transient lodging order and the timing and plan for moving towards phase 3?
No, I hadn't gotten there yet. I was doing bad news, then I was going to do good news. So. So I think everybody kind of caught this yesterday. It happened really as with our shift from phase 1 to phase 2. This thing happened really quickly yesterday, because it seemed to be sort of hypothetical and for a few days, and then all of a sudden there it was. So Dr. James signed an order that opened up transient lodging in San Juan County to 50% capacity effective yesterday. Now, non-essential travel is still a phase 3 activity, and we were hoping to go into phase 3 sometime in the middle of June. We have to apply for it, but because all counties can move independently of one another, and the governor opened it up to allow counties that are in phase 2 to go to phase 3 based on phase 3 criteria that the counties have to meet. There's been discussions that the county council and the board of health are trying to figure out a special meeting time to be able to apply for the variance to go into phase 3. The earliest that meeting would happen looks to be June 13th, although we've been surprised at every timing thing as this thing has gone along, which means possibly the week of June 14th, somewhere in there, we could receive phase 3 clearance. And as we saw with phase 2, it could happen really, really quickly. For phase 3, it may take longer depending on what they have to review. But we're slowly but surely returning to normalcy. The transient transient lodging change gives those businesses now an opportunity to ramp up with employees, and get their procedures in place, and basically be ready for when we go to phase 3, instead of finding out about phase 3 and then needing time to get ready. So hopefully this was something that Dr. James was really hoping to be able to do with the county, and we're chugging forward. Obviously the other businesses that work around, such as restaurants, when they go to phase 3, are going to need to, everybody's going to need to kind of move in lockstep at this point, in order to feel like we've got a fully functioning economy by the time middle to late June rolls around, and with the July 4th holiday ahead of us. There's been a lot of talk because Friday Harbor is going to still have its fireworks display, so there's been conversation about what that looks like with county health in terms of maintaining social distancing, and concern about people traveling from other islands to Friday Harbor. I mean, maybe that'll help with the transient lodging situation in terms of bulking up rooms. So this is all new terrain for everybody. We just kind of, every now and then, it's we get, even here we get down in the weeds on stuff, and it's just have to step back and remember, we and most of our contemporaries have never experienced anything like this before. So we're doing the best we can with the information that we have at hand. Sometimes it works, and you know, sometimes something else happens. But and then the other, sorry, Nikki, was the transient lodging, and that was.
You quickly mentioned it, but there was guidance about how we can shift to phase 3 in terms of
Yeah.
that counties can be. So earlier it wasn't clear whether counties could move separately from each other, and now it is clear that we can, and how we would proceed to do that, and when we might be able to do it, assuming things go well for the next few days, week and a half.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the mask order has helped. We are certainly aware of resistance to mask wearing, especially from people from the mainland. Look, I've been to Skagit County a couple times in the last month, and it is the first time I went, it was like a whole nother world over there. It was like I came home at night and thought, did we miss something? Because like nobody on the mainland was wearing masks, and the county has got all the big reader boards out by the ferry landings. That happened about a week ago, and where they are providing masks. We're going to have some masks available at the EDC for businesses that need to get them. There's been a lot of conversation like, well, so carloads of tourists roll in. They saw the advisory on Washington State Ferry's website when they bought their tickets, but they didn't, bother to buy a mask. What do they do when they get here? Obviously, there are businesses that'll sell them to them. I think we're going to have some to hand out, and just try to keep it as as civilized and as user friendly an experience as possible. So
I think Kyle Dodd that mentioned that the chambers are also a source that businesses might be able to get extra masks, and that because our office is on San Juan, that would be useful for people on Orcas and Lopez too, because it sounds like they would have them.
Right.
According to his comments yesterday at the business recovery call.
Right. And I think don't quote me on it, but I think the chambers also have the signage, the mask up signs that the county developed. So those were released to, those were sent out to everybody as a printable PDF. You could print them in 2 different paper sizes. They were set up for that. Of course, we had people asking if there was someplace they could come pick them up, and I know the county has been working on getting those out. I think the chambers may have those for businesses to be able to put up in front of at their front doors. Obviously, it's going to be a messaging thing all summer long that people have to be reminded about. But nonetheless, it is a county order, and our county council people said, look, if somebody comes to you and complains about it, have them call them. It was there. You don't have to sit and defend the health order to people, and there will be people that are never going to darken your door again when they can't come in without a mask. We've certainly seen it in other parts of the country, some with devastating consequences. But we're our hope was that it is an island. It is or islands. It is a vacation spot for many, and hopefully the rhetoric and the anxiety can just die down, and we can all get along with our masks. We are talking about having on our business recovery call next week. They haven't announced it yet, but we're going to have an expert, I think, talking about how to deal with some of these interpersonal situations that people are going to be experiencing with visitors from the islands, or visitors to the islands, or some of our own folks who are kind of fed up with having to put on a mask every time they go to King's. It's customer service in these times is going to have significant challenges, and I don't think it's wise to pretend that things will be back to normal when you have somebody at the front door making sure that people are wearing a mask when they enter, and going around and sterilizing surfaces as they go and cleaning things as the people touch, with disinfectant wipes and all these new protocols that especially retail is going to have to tend to. I mean, there's we've all read the guidance, and if you haven't, I mean, it's all available on Safe Start. But putting it all in action, and putting it in action with people in your face and in your store about it is going to be interesting. Do people need to wear masks when they're in their hotel rooms? Well, probably not, but I mean, there are going to be these questions, and people don't like being told what to do. But again, we have a countywide mask order from the health department, and well, that's our shield, because in September the folks leave, and we don't want to have 10 of our beds at Peace Health overflowing and be sending people back to the mainland to be on ventilators. I mean, there is a worst case scenario that we are always going to be living very close to. And, I think I'm glad that our health officials have taken it as seriously as they have, because we've certainly seen what's happened in other states that have never closed or relaxed their rules very quickly, and their response is, well, we've got enough ventilators for everybody right now. Okay, that's what you got. There's some programming notes. We are going to have a bankruptcy webinar on Tuesday. That'll be with Mary Schmidt. That'll be at 2:30. It'll be a special program, and it'll have Mickey, you've got some more to say on
Monday.
this. Oh, Monday. Sorry. What did I say?
Monday,
Tuesday?
2:30.
I was already thinking of when Chat and Chew is not. Sorry about that. So Monday at 2:30. That'll be on our website, our newsletter, our Facebook page. It'll have its own, dedicated link. And this is, a lot of businesses are looking at this, are looking at closing or having to restructure significantly because they're carrying too much debt that just cannot be, resolved with their lenders in the amount of time that they need. We have talked with we've talked with a number of businesses who have been able to get extremely favorable terms, especially with the local banks, with Islanders, with Heritage, WaFd, for carryover money, basically, just to pay the rent, keep the doors open until all this stuff settles out, while people are waiting for EIDL or PPP loans to come through. So, there are options out there for people, but, for some, it is going to result in a business closure and possibly having to, go into bankruptcy. So, we just want to make sure that everybody has the tools that they need and the information they need to be able to make the best business decision that they can. We do have SCORE volunteers that work with our office. And we always encourage business owners that, that just want to talk to somebody, to please reach out. Me and Mickey and Victoria, we talk to people all day long, and try to give them where our knowledge fields go. And somebody that really needs to get deeper, we'll hook them up with one of the SCORE mentors here. This is all free. We're a nonprofit. We're funded by other things, but we're here to make sure that if businesses can stay open and can stay healthy, then that improves our overall economic picture. If businesses need to look at closing down, we want to make sure that you're going to do it in the most elegant, painless way possible. So please feel free to reach out to us. That is our sole reason for existing right now. What else we got, Mickey?
That's all. We can take questions or comments or anything else people want to talk about. I think somebody mentioned, I think Kim, you started by mentioning wanting to know about something about the local economy. So if you want to talk about that, that'd be great.
Well, I was just introducing I'm a CPA. My CPA firm emphasizes financial coaching. So I can, you were just talking about the businesses that are looking to go out of business. I could really be a resource there to try to help them avoid that and
Okay.
be successful. I'm a Ramsey certified professional coach and help businesses. That's why I wanted to connect with y'all, but I can also help individuals and families too, because so many people are suffering from the stress and anxiety of that.
Oh, definitely.
So
Absolutely.
I want to be a resource to my new community. I moved here last fall. And but yeah, the economics of the islands are interesting and somewhat different from the mainland.
Sure.
But definitely want to get my finger on the pulse. So I'll check out your website and
Okay.
reconnect with y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, Kim, would you shoot me an email this afternoon, and I'll circle back with you on a few things, and maybe we can have a broader discussion.
Sounds great, John.
beyond
Yes,
this.
I will.
Would be good. So it's John at sanjuans with an S edc.org. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and I can vouch for Kim has taken the leap to really launch her business at a time when other businesses were looking at decline, and
Yeah.
it's good to know someone in her shoes. We've collaborated on other financial stuff, someone in her shoes that can really speak to the pain of being in business at this time, but
Sure.
also speak to that there's a way forward. I think hope is something that's important to infuse in as many conversations as is realistically possible. And so
Yeah.
seeing somebody who's going through it and been through it, but can speak from a place of hope, I think could be really a valuable resource to folks.
Oh, definitely. And I know we talk to people who again, it's just like with the we've all never gone through this before. There's also the thing that we try to just remind people, especially business owners, is that you are not alone in this process. You're not, for every bad day that you're having, there are 100 people just like you on this island that are going through the exact same thing. And we're seeing that from a broad enough picture to try to get everybody, moving to whatever relief option makes the most sense for them as quickly as possible. For a lot of people, that just ended up being unemployment, which was, by some miracle of miracles, happened. I mean, people that have never been part of the system are, getting $188 minimum from the state plus $600 from the federal per week until the end of July. And that is literally, a godsend, right now. I mean, we've never had that that's never happened. And, I know there's going to be a lot of political wrangling about what happens, when that expires. There's certainly a lot of sentiment on both sides of that. But for right now, for people just trying to, pay their mortgage, buy groceries, keep the lights on, at least there's that, because before February, there was nothing. There was nothing even remotely close. So, just trying to get people to be comfortable with the idea is a lot of conversation, and then getting them through the process, and us learning the process when it came online on April 19th, and trying to figure out what an independent contractor looks like when they apply for unemployment, and I going through it myself so I could train myself how to answer all the questions that were going to come up. It was very enlightening once I managed to get on after about a week, and because I was answering questions on the 20th, or we were trying to get screenshots and anything possible, but basically the system had crashed for like 3 days. So, but yeah, we're just, it's all about what options are available to people. And I think, Kim, you're going to bring a lot to the party on this one. So you said you're new here. Can you say what island you're on? Or?
San Juan, yeah.
You're on San Juan. Okay.
We're in Friday Harbor.
Gotcha. Did you come from, and were you at a financial services firm, or were you always independent?
No, I've actually just started my CPA firm. I've worked 30 years in County, mostly in social services industry, and most recently a chief financial officer for a social service agency in Everett, which I still collaborate with. So I'm doing two things at once right now.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's neat. Hey, Susan, how are you?
3 very specific questions.
Yes.
And my interest is all the nonprofit side of the world. I know nothing about for-profit. Is there any talk of the $600 extra a week being extended beyond July 31st?
Not at this point. And I know that the House has tried to, put forward a number of bills that have all been shot down or didn't make it to committee. We are, honestly, what I read is the Senate take on it, because they're the ones that are going to advance a House bill to, for a vote. And there doesn't seem to be any enthusiasm for that. Now, July is a long ways away, and they are, I don't think they're apt to promise anything until the very last minute. If things continue the way they're, if things degrade in the next few weeks, I think that everybody's looking at businesses reopening, states lifting their restrictions, and hoping for the best. Hoping that there's not going to be a surge.
I know a lot of people applied for the EIDL loans.
Yes.
Do we know anyone who has received the money?
I know I know people who've received the application, like the email application, but I don't know anybody that's received the money yet.
Okay.
But it's slowly churning. SBA, as you can imagine, once they had their funding cut, then this happened.
Yeah.
So they had to fire a lot of people, and then they had to process. Oh man, it was like 1,100% of beyond their normal applications just in the first week. So.
Okay. And then the eviction moratorium has been extended?
Yeah, I saw a proclamation about that a couple days ago.
Is there any relief for the people who are the landlords? Any word of, or are they just?
I follow this conversation down in King County, where they're definitely having a reaction to that. And at this point in time, there doesn't seem to be anything. I mean, it depends on how you're structured. Obviously, if you can do an EIDL loan, I mean, if you'd applied back when that was a thing, because EIDL has been closed now for some time, except for except for agricultural businesses, because they didn't get in the first few weeks of that. No, there hasn't been any. That's been the one thing. Interestingly enough, like larger businesses, large commercial leaseholders, big corporations managed to apply for PPP but that's because they have employees, and they run the people through payroll that are managing their properties and stuff like that. So, but nothing on the smaller scale that we see up here.
Thank
And
you.
I know it's been incredibly frustrating. I have these conversations, several times a week with people, and nobody has offered up any relief solution for them that we've been able to come across.
I wonder if the landlords could help their tenants get eligible through DSHS with the Housing and Essential Needs program. So the county pays the landlord for the person to live there. And I just searched it online, and it says that the individual has to be unable to work for at least 90 days due to a physical or a mental incapacity. So it's not necessarily directly.
That's been the problem with some of these things, because we've been trying to track just the COVID, because those have been much more liberal in their application of funds. But there was, I know LA County was doing a program to keep, to give renters rent money in certain parts of the city. there was talk about a pilot program like that in King County, but it has almost been a municipality issue at that point. That there's nothing coming from the Fed or as far as we've seen from the state for that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, Susan. So, Lee, what have you been up to?
Lots of webinars. It's fantastic to see. Trying to find a bright side in all of this. It's interesting to have something hit us nationally in a way that resources are available. If this was something that was just happening in the county, I think I'd be a lot more constrained with voices, particularly working for the theater. Well, what's my peer group of people who are facing a disaster in the theater? It's none. We're the theater. I mean, we would have our compatriots on Lopez and Orcas, but we're not the same in terms of how we operate. So being able to work with other community theaters talking about insurance coverage, we all have run into that lovely virus and bacteria clause that prevents anyone from having losses recovered, but learning that at least with Philadelphia insurance policies, there's nested in there, and regrettably we're on Liberty Mutual, but there's nested in there, not in the property insurance, but in the general liability clause, there's a sports and events, I forget what it's called, the sports and events protection endorsement that does allow for some limited recovery. They'll
Really?
probably remove that in the future. But yeah, it's what I heard is that it's worth looking at for other coverage, but this was specific to Philadelphia insurance and there's a cap on it, but some community theaters who have Philadelphia as their carrier were able to, because that has a trigger of civil authority. Yeah. If for any reason civil authority closes something, which has been my beef with the whole, other than just not getting money, my beef with the endorsement in the first place is that our closure isn't a result of any actual virus that we know of. It's a result of a civil authority. That was the trigger that closed us. And it's really frustrating to be like, well, we're not closed because of an outbreak related to the theater. We're closed because the county and the state have, and we're on board with that. It's not like we would want our patrons to come anyway. It's not like they would want to, but because we also know that it would bankrupt insurance companies if they had to provide the kind of coverage they'd have to cover. But that is just a super nerdy example of where it's really helpful to have this national collaboration that in some ways is unique to this kind of worldwide problem. So everything from that to making plans for our staff to return to the building and having our safety plans in place and making sure people know they don't have to come back, but it's often a good place for them to get the work done. And remaining close to the public until we have public offerings. We don't want to offer public risk because we are a community hub, and some of the people most dear to us will wander in if we're open. Right. And so we won't be open because that introduces so much more risk to them and to our staff than it does any reward. It will be nice to be on the other side of that, where because community is a real thing, that's even before we're producing, it'll be valuable for us to be open, but not now. But getting there. That's kind of what we're working with and trying to adjust to the PPP goalpost moving. It's fine for San Juan Community Theater, but like Kim and like many people on the island, turns out I'm actually collaborating in some other places to keep the correct amount of food on the table. And in doing that, one of the theaters I work with had their PPP loan take effect very early in the process. And so much of the relief that's provided by this just messes up all the plans they've made because they planned on spending it all in 8 weeks, where it really would have been valuable for them to have a 24-week
Sure.
period and be able to.
But if they've already
But
spent it, right? So
they've already spent a lot of it and made plans and made furlough plans after that. And it's like, oh, if this had just been a week off,
well,
they probably would have been able to different plans that supported people differently.
yeah.
But this cake isn't baked. We know that even with this, will there be another one? The one thing I've learned is don't spend money on webinars for PPP loan forgiveness because
Shoot,
because that is useless the next time they move the goalposts.
Yeah. Or paid subscriptions to things on that, because it's all gonna come down to what your banker says, because they're the ones that are carrying the loan on their books. So.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we are hanging out at the phase 4 and after, knowing that the best things we can do right now is get our staff back to work on site,
Sure.
And be ready and thinking about what it looks like to welcome patrons, knowing that for us that may look very different from other businesses in the county.
Well, just remember, if you are bringing staff back and anybody refuses to return to work, an employee, I hate even bringing this up, but it's going to be something that employers are dealing with. And since this is being recorded for posterity, we'll just put a little PSA out there, that, if an employee refuses to return to work, they need to have a valid reason, and ESD has listed a number of valid reasons for them. But fear of COVID is not one of them. It's not being discounted. It's just, there's, you have to have a rational reason for that. If an employee does refuse to return to work, they can see reduced or eliminated unemployment benefits. If they do have a valid reason, they may end up switching over to the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which is all through ESD. And at that point, they'll have their claim reevaluated too. I mean, we're not living in a cave here. I mean, everybody knows, that some people are making more money than they used to on unemployment right now. In the long run, maybe that is going to be a good economic generator, because that means people have more money to spend. Or it gave them a few months of not having the stress about what was going to happen next, because maybe they lost their medical insurance too, at the same time. That was the other point of the PPP, was to not just keep employees on payroll, but keep the benefits going too. So, thank you, Susan. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, but
and in our case, all of the work for our employees can be accomplished on or off site,
Sure.
in whatever hour. So it's moot for us, but it's good for folks to know who are in a different situation where
because I think we're gonna
on-site can be a work requirement for some roles. It just doesn't happen to be a work requirement for our staff roles at this time, because we're not mounting a production.
Right. And actors can zoom in and you'll just project it on the screen eventually, right?
Looking at all of those things, it's fascinating to hear, and we'll see what the future holds for us and our community, and what people will feel safe to do. One of the things that got introduced in one of the sessions that I thought was brilliant, and we're going to look at whether it can be adapted for us, is knowing that we're a public venue. I think there can be a lot of anxiety about, well, what will it look like for me to go back? What will the measures? And we can say, we can talk about our adherence to the plan as much as we want, but I think it will be helpful, because it's such an experience, to consider putting up a video of what's it look like to come back to the theater.
I was just going to say, that's
your ushers be doing. What will the meeting look like, so that people can have some pale reflection of that experience without having to take any risk at all.
Right.
I think that can help a lot in people making whatever the best decisions are for them. We're probably quite a ways away from that being a reality. But when we try to reintroduce that, for it to be something for, we wouldn't be open if we thought we had anything to offer other than terror, which is what large public gatherings look like for most people now. And so being able to reintroduce people to what they love about the theater, and to know here's what we're doing to manage whatever risks we can, so that you can make a good decision about whether it's the right time for you, I think would be a good move. So we're ways out, but it was another one of those neat collaboration ideas that I'm like, I hadn't thought of that, but that could be really helpful for folks. And I don't think it's just us. I think there are a number of businesses that could consider, when they have a public, whether it's lodging or whatever, to really walk people through their process in a way that's observable instead of just a bullet list.
Yeah. No, I love the video idea. I think that's actually brilliant, Lee. That's really good. Something immersive, something people read. People have been reading lists of here's what we're going to do, but something visual is always going to get a lot more eyeballs on it and a little bit more retention. So
yeah, it affects our brains differently. I process that really differently from all the other things, because what I've seen are videos and pictures that really, that part of our brain is very, is designed to override the other parts, the parts that keeps me alive. And so, and for many people, the existence of the virus has been associated with death, when that's not the only outcome. But it's like, if I go outside, I'm going to die. If someone's not wearing a mask, I'm going to die. Like, this is just the shorthand that our brains use to keep us alive. And so to be able to walk out, well, here's another way it can look. I think that would be something that could be beneficial when it's healthy.
Very cool. Kim, any final thoughts? Or
No, I don't have anything else. Thank you for letting me join today.
Oh, of course. Thank you for coming. It was really nice meeting you. And Lee, it's always great to see you, and it was fun having Susan. And we're going to pause our Thursday chat and choose for a while, because we've got some other things coming up that are going to take up a bit of our bandwidth. We're going to continue with our programming is going to go through a little bit of a vacation phase right now while we rejigger some things, but we're probably going to do more special events instead of the weekly things, because a lot of people are just getting back to work, or trying to get their businesses ready for that. Next Wednesday, like I said, we'll do a business recovery call at 10, which will be I think it's going to be about, what are we going to call this? Let's call it customer service in the days of COVID, or something like that. Because nobody wants to anticipate that there's going to be difficulty, but when there is difficulty, I think we want to make sure our employees or our workers are prepared, or at least have something to work with when it comes to that. Because we want people to keep coming back, but at the same time, there's going to be a point when businesses have to say no. So we'll examine that with someone who's a lot smarter about that than I am. Our Wednesday night forums are going to go to a monthly format. Our seniors issue, which we had last night, which was pretty lively, is going to be posted later today or tomorrow, along with some resources that people can reach out to. It's what?
Yep.
Okay. And just follow us on Facebook. We've got news coming. If you don't subscribe to our newsletter yet, you can do that on our website. There's a link down at the bottom to sign up, and it comes Mickey makes that sucker come out rain or shine twice a week. So
and occasionally it's actually in the right order.
sometimes we're pedaling so fast we don't know which end of the bike is which. So, but we're doing what we can. So that's it. I will be back here some Thursday in the future, or Tuesday, doing another chat and chew, I think. But we'll take a few weeks off and see what the demand looks like. But we're always here. whether on Zoom or elsewhere. So, thank you guys. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.